If you have multiple channels, like we have it here, error and done, where only one of the two channels will emit a value for a given Go routine, if you have a situation like this, you can use a special control structure that's built into Go, the select statement, which is a control structure that's built to be used with channels. And the idea behind select is kind of related to the idea behind the switch statement, just that we're now not evaluating different values being stored in a variable, but that we instead wait for different values emitted by a channel. For this, we should start by moving this select statement into a for loop that goes through all channels that we could have. So either done chance or error chance in this case, or simply tax rates, since that is used as a source for the length for both channels. So here I'll add a for loop where I go through all my tax rates with the range keyword like this. And then you want to have that select statement inside of that for loop. Now actually, I won't care about the tax rate, and I don't care about this index either, and therefore we can shorten it like this, to just execute some code for every element in tax rates. Then the select statement also needs a pair of curly braces, and between those curly braces you can then define the different cases. And these different cases will be related to different channels. You do that with the case keyword, and then you can read the value from a channel like this, as you learned, and also, if you need to, store it in a variable, for example an error variable, which is created on the fly here. Then you add a colon, and then in a new line, the code for this case. Now, of course, error chan is not defined here. Instead, we have error chance. And then we can use the index, which we can get from this for loop, to access a specific error channel. Therefore, actually, we can bring back the index here, because we do need it, like this. And then use that index to access the error channel from the first tax rate and from the second tax rate, and so on. And then here, after this colon, in a new line, we can take a look at this error, which is potentially received through that channel, and check if it's not nil, and if that's the case, we can, for example, output it, like this. Otherwise, we don't do anything in that case. And then we can and should also define a second case here, where we read from the done channel. So from done chance, also for that index. And we could also store that in a variable, but since I don't care about the actual value, but instead only about the fact that some value was received, I can also just write it like this and let the value go into the void. Nonetheless, after the colon, we now define the code for this scenario, which in this case here could simply be a simple output where I say done, because I'm now done with an operation. And we can now delete this code down here. But what's this select statement now doing here? Well, the idea behind the select statement is that you can define different cases for different channels, and it will be the case of the channel that emits a value earlier that will be executed. But then it will not wait for the other channel to also emit a value. And that's exactly what we need here. It allows us to wait for only one channel to emit a value, and once that happened, it will move on. It will not care about the other case. Instead, the case that gives us a value earlier wins, and the other case is discarded, and the other channel is ignored thereafter. And that's exactly what we need. Therefore, with that, we can also simplify this code here and get rid of that variable which we don't use. And with that, we have the select statement that we need to wait for either an error or the success case, so the process being done. And we do that for all the processes and all the channels we started. Therefore, now if you run this, you see we get stuck for 3 seconds, and then we get a bunch of dones, one for every process. And that's how we can now get the best of both worlds, because now you will see that if we have an error, if I deliberately create an error and send it through the error channel, so if I create one with the errors package and there the new function, if I do that just to simulate the scenario that we have an error, you will see that now, instead of getting a bunch of dones, we'll get an error, and the program finishes thereafter. It won't wait for the done channels to emit values. And with that, I'll of course get rid of that, because we don't need that error. But this shows you how you can use the select statement to wait for one of two or more channels to emit a value.